It's Taylor time today. We're talking about something that really affects a lot of people worldwide. I'm talking males and females. Today, folks, we're talking about hair loss. You know, women lose their hair just like men do, and there's different reasons for it. So we invited our expert, Marci Bothwell, Dr. Marci Bothwell, to the show to break it all down for us and tell us about the different types of hair loss and if there are any solutions. Welcome.
Well, there has not been a breakthrough in hair replacement or solutions in probably a good 40 years as far as the science goes. But this past week, the University of Columbia came out with a new hair regrowth study, and it is the biggest thing since for the past 40 years.
Does it work with males, females, and all different reasons for hair loss?
It potentially can work for everyone. It is not ready for prime time. It's a few years out, but it is getting closer and closer. For 40 years, we have known that we can regrow hair in rodents. You know, we can regrow hair in mice.
Do rodents lose their hair?
Apparently they do. But you can destroy their hair follicles and regrow them, and we've never had a problem. But you take a human hair and you try and regrow it in these petri plates, and it would never grow. And so it is stymied. People have been so frustrated with hair loss for the past 40 years. But the University of Columbia, do it instead of two-dimensional, do it three-dimensional. So we've got some photos, and they're really pretty cool, of the different hairs that they have made. This is just a, well, first let's talk about exactly the normal cycle of hair growth.
Okay.
Towards the left-hand side is the anagen. Everybody's hair is growing, and for about 3 to 6 years. And then you go into the telogen phase, where that's about 90 days, and you then lose hair, and then it goes again back into another cycle.
Even the hair on your head?
That is the hair on your head.
And you lose it naturally?
Yeah, you have about 150,000 hairs on your head, and you're losing 10% all the time, and they regrow. The problem is for men and the male pattern baldness is they get, it converts to dihydrotestosterone, and the hair on the top and on the sides then starts to thin. So that anagen phase, where it's supposedly healthy and growing, starts to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and then you end up like the first picture with the receding on the sides, and then the bald spot in the middle, and sometimes you end up like my dad, and I hate to say my brother, with just a little bit of a rim.
So typically those men, they're producing more testosterone than other men?
They are producing more testosterone, but it's the conversion to the dihydrotestosterone, and it's a genetic thing that they're more likely. But unfortunately, it's like 70% of men who are eventually going to end up with this, you know, to some degree pattern baldness, you know, over time. And some of the guys, you know, they start out at 20 years of age, and it really becomes quite a psychological barrier. I mean, I was kind of going, well, what's with hair? You know, putting all these creams on your head, but we put creams on our face all the time. So you kind of have to,
Hey, I just say shave it off. Bald men are sexy.
I like that too.
Bald men are sexy.
But you know, you got it. They did a study. The poor guys, they had same face, one guy with a pattern baldness, and then the next picture of him with a full head of hair, and they put it on one of those dating sites, and 5 times more hits on the guy with the full head of hair.
I can see that.
So you know, it's a whole self-esteem issue. So
just like wrinkles and everything else that women deal with, right?
Yeah, yeah. Women get thinning of the hair, and so we lose about 10%, and it's a thinning. It's not this pattern.
Is that with age?
It's different. It happens with age, yeah. Well, it can happen a lot of times. I was just talking to a friend of mine after she gave birth. All of a sudden, all her hair was falling out. I mean, there's lots of reasons for it.
That does happen after you have a baby. That happened to me too.
Yeah, yeah. Your hair falls out, but then it typically grows back.
It replenishes.
Yeah, it typically
and then
grows
there's also cases of alopecia.
Yeah, alopecia is just the general term, and that just means loss of hair. But there's alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune process, which can be patchy or all over. Then there's the hair pulling problem, and that's actually
but that's self-induced.
Yeah, but I mean, people, you know, if you wear things that are too tight, that can happen, and then scarring or burns. In fact, they think that that is the application that they're going to use this new technology with first.
To burn your scalp to see if your hair grows?
No.
What?
No. People who've been burned, you know, they're disfigured. I mean, you've seen some of the guys coming back from Iraq. I mean, they're just burned. And you know, it's the first thing when you start talking about their self-esteem is to getting them back to looking like normal, you know, people, or at least, you know, restore them to, you know, what they think feels better about themselves. Yeah. So this study is great. They grew it in a 3D model. They took hairs from a bunch of different people. Some of them had the androgenic alopecia, which is the male pattern baldness. There's a group of different people. They grew these hairs and they actually put it back into the foreskin of babies. So it's back in human skin. And
did you say foreskin?
Yes, I did. Yes,
the foreskin that I think you're talking about?
It's a little baby. He doesn't need it anymore. So one of the brown one actually there is showing
the foreskin that comes off after a circumcision, folks.
Yes.
They're not just taking it from the baby. You have to give more details, okay?
Well, that's true.
I don't want my viewers to visualize these doctors taking this little baby and taking his foreskin.
Okay. Well, they could.
Refocus. Reboot.
But it actually has worked this time. And if you see on that one slide, it's got a nice hair, and it hasn't created the nice milieu of the keratin production and as much as it's going to be a nice strong hair yet. But we are so close. And then you can take one little hair, grow a bunch of dermal papillae, and just, you don't have to take the hair from the back and move it forward. It's going to be new hair for people. And I think we're really close. So
is there
very
anything,
exciting.
That is very exciting. Talking about a great medical investment. But is there anything that we can do, women and men, that we can do to prevent the hair loss from starting to begin with? Like just nip it in the bud?
No. The main answer is no. You know, some of the things, the vitamin A, B, C, zinc is actually very good for the skin. You know, everything in moderation.
Right?
Yes, that's one of the B vitamins. Everything in moderation. Eating healthy, less red meat with less testosterone in it actually helps quite a bit. But, you know, it's a genetic issue. And it's about 70 to 80% of the male population. And so it's
But it's a female problem too. It's just not males. And when it happens to a female, I have to tell you, it's got to be more devastating. Because women stereotypically are supposed to have hair, and they think we're supposed to have this hair, lots of hair, or even thin hair. But when they're going bald, that's pretty traumatic.
Oh, it's very traumatic, but they can get a nice wig. The toupees on the men are not so great.
The rugs?
The rugs.
They make better rugs these days.
They do
and
make
they make hair plugs.
Actually, that was one of the things I did in my residency. Was I was the lucky one who got to harvest the hair follicles. You get them from the very back, and you get them from above the ear, but mostly in the back, and you make these rows.
Some men, you could get them from their ears because their hair start growing like that, and their eyebrows start growing like that, right?
Yes.
Can't you harvest that hair?
No, but you...
Just an idea.
But you cut them up in very tiny, tiny regiments, and you really need to get a really good specialist, because I remember one time I saw this guy, he came in and he needed to be repaired, and so he had just this bowl right across here. And it was horrible. I mean, it really takes a very good artist to get the right pattern that's coming in and make it to look very natural. But we used to just do these, you know, 4mm plugs, you know, when I was starting out in the 70s or 80s. And now we're taking single hairs and putting it in, and it can look really, really nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So there is hope on the horizon, this new medical advancement that will help women with alopecia as well as men who have hereditary hair loss, everything. Fantastic. You always give us good news. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Bam! You always come here and give us meat. Tips that will make our life better. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right.